Yeah, so my name is Kevin Dahlia. I'm out in California and mostly do regulatory compliance and corporate compliance in the cannabis industry.
So I'm Shane Pennington. I sue the federal government on behalf of cannabis and other controlled substances clients, and I'm here from Beacon, New York.
My name is Maytal Manzuri, and I'm the managing partner for Manzuri Law in Los Angeles, California. We focus on regulatory work in the cannabis space and also corporate and transactional work. And we're here at the INCBA CLI, and it's just amazing to be here and to learn so much and to meet such wonderful people.
My name is Jared Kylo. I flew in from San Francisco, and my professional life in cannabis has mostly been about 19 years of owning dispensaries, kind of running regulations, working through best business practices. Currently I own 3 dispensaries in the San Francisco, Napa, and LA areas. Been a vertically integrated business for cannabis for a while, and in doing that now I've started a couple trade organizations that represent quite a few license holders. We have qualified ordinances, written bills. I testify in front of the Senate, in front of the Assembly, multiple times a year in defense of different regulatory changes. Other aspects of my business life include having a 3D printing patent and company in the 3D printing manufacturing world. I have a birth center and have changed laws within midwifery care, took away adults physician supervision out of that particular industry, and do a lot of kind of construction and design work. So I guess that's my CV.
Jessica Wasserman, and I practice law here in Washington, D.C. with a focus on FDA law, and that may not sound like an obvious connect with cannabis, but it sure is.
My name is Christopher Davis. I'm the Executive Director of the International Cannabis Bar Association. I'm in from Oakland, California. That's where we run the association from. So despite us being an international organization, we're centered there in Oakland and serving every 50 states in the United States equally. No, that was a terrible answer. Perfect. Yeah, so I'm in from Oakland, California.
Hi, I'm Katie Young. I'm the managing partner of Ad Astra Law Group in San Francisco. I'm a litigator. I handle breach of contract cases and fights between business owners, and there's plenty of that in the cannabis industry. In a lot of ways, my firm is the house that cannabis built, and a lot of it is due to my network here at INCBA.
Hi, so I'm Fatima Afia. I'm an attorney at Hiller PC. I am a cannabis lawyer and also civil litigator. I actually came to the cannabis industry through litigation. I was on the legal team behind the federal lawsuit Washington versus Barr, where we sued the DOJ and the DEA, seeking to get a declaration that the Controlled Substances Act is unconstitutional as it applies to cannabis. We made it all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, where ultimately on procedural grounds it was dismissed, but that case was really enlightening for me, and it really made me inspired by this industry, by the people in it, by the meaning of the plant to so many people. And so now I do state licensing, regulatory compliance, corporate law, and I do a lot of the transactional work in our cannabis law practice. I'm also CLE co-chair for INCBA, and it's been a really great experience working with INCBA over the last 3-4 years at this point now.
My name is Jason Horst. I'm in from the Bay Area, and I run a small boutique cannabis law firm in Walnut Creek, California.
My name is Niall Nelligan. I'm from Dublin, Ireland. I'm an academic lawyer, and I specialise in the field of drug policy, law reform, and cannabis regulation.
My name is Mitzi Vaughn. My practice is in Seattle, Washington, and I practice cannabis transactional law.
Hi, I'm Jason Moscovici. I'm a partner at a law firm called Robic from Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Daniel Heyman. I'm in from Zurich, Switzerland.
My name is Robin Rahman. I'm with the Barber Law Firm in Little Rock, Arkansas. My family also owns a dispensary in Arkansas, and my practice area has traditionally been in financial restructuring and bankruptcy. I've practiced for about 20 years, and in the last 5 years I've switched over to almost entirely cannabis transactional work and regulatory work within the state of Arkansas.
My name is Alexis Lazeri, and I am an associate attorney at Manzuri Law with Maytal. I'm from San Francisco, and yeah, I'm a corporate regulatory attorney. I work with cannabis companies as well. Do a lot of licensing work in the state of California, corporate, transactional, M&A. It's great. And this is my first time at CLI.
I started in on the INCBA in 2017. I became the executive director, I should say, in 2017. I started volunteering for INCBA back when we were the National Cannabis Bar Association in 2015. From there, after writing a few different blog articles, hosting a few social events, when the need arose to hire an executive director, I was lucky enough to be considered. And from then, we've grown the association from about 125 people in 2017 to now over 800.
I'm into cannabis since I started as a lawyer in 2019. In fact, we do corporate commercial work, M&A work, but we're also very much advising our clients on regulatory affairs, cosmetics law, chemicals law, anything that has to do with cannabis in Switzerland. Pretty much when I started our practice in cannabis in 2019, I came about the website, in fact. I didn't know anyone at the INCBA, and I just signed up. And then after that, I got to know Kai Friedrich Niermann, my colleague in Germany, and he told me all the good things about it and about the CLI, and here I am.
For 4 or 5 years now, so I've been in this space since the 2018 Farm Bill, so I came to it through the CBD and hemp side of things.
It's been fantastic. The content is amazing. So many tremendous speakers, and every time you get this community of lawyers together, it really is a special experience. It's just, these are my people.
Having a great time networking and exchanging with I guess individuals who and practitioners who have the exact same need that we identified back when we started our cannabis practice in about 2014, around 2014. We were a little bit on our own in Canada with regards to our legalization efforts, and my practice is basically in intellectual property law, regulatory compliance. So when our clients started needing, identifying needs to transact in other countries, finding someone who was willing to touch cannabis directly or indirectly internationally became a challenge. So from a legal perspective, and that's why the INCBA became an incredibly useful tool for us. We right away, I remember, came down to the first CLI in Colorado. Came right away, tried to find people who knew what they were talking about, was incredibly happy with who we found. It felt like we were all basically relatives or cousins coming from the the same family, so they've been a member and contributor since.
Probably 3 or 4 years now. I started in law school, got involved in back when it was the National Cannabis Bar Association, and as a volunteer, and now I'm a practicing attorney for 2 years now.
When I came to work for Vicente Cederberg, I immediately got connected with some of the association's leadership, and also, I don't know if it was from them or just from word of mouth, but all at the same time I was sort of inundated with how important the association is and that I needed to get involved.
Actually, I'm one of the founding board members. I've volunteered quite a bit and still do. I'm currently on the advisory board, which is a huge honor. And I volunteer to try to help keep the organization moving forward and expanding.
By absolute good fortune, they found me to answer that question.
What have you been doing with the INCBA?
Well, I've been very fortunate to be invited to be a member of the advisory board with particular emphasis on academic interest and developing academic programs for, I suppose, universities and third-level institutions.
Actually, I'm pretty new here. I think I joined late last year and have come here with the design of getting more involved and just sort of seeing what this association has to offer.
So I became involved with the International Cannabis Bar Association in 2017, back when it was the National Cannabis Bar Association, actually at this event when it was held in Denver in 2017. The Cannabis Law Institute is literally the reason I'm here.
Being able to kind of bring in 20 years of experience and someone who kind of thinks like a lawyer and acts like one but isn't one gives me kind of the intersection of how my business intersects with regulations, what those regulations do to me as a business, and also kind of working in the intellectual property area, trying to find where we can capture some long-term, marketing benefits, and being able to kind of take that nationally and maybe internationally. So in some ways, being a part of this group and didn't realize that I knew this many lawyers that were already part of this International Cannabis Bar Association. Really kind of just shows that the cannabis industry isn't as large as we think it is, and the people who are really kind of navigating it is a much smaller subsection of people, and really appreciate the time and the ability to be able to communicate some of the experience I have, and also just try to see where inside the legal side of things, how that intersects with each individual business, and then being able to take that intersection and communicate it to multiple people within my trade organization. Sometimes we need to dumb it down, sometimes we need to raise the bar of everyone's understanding, and sometimes we just need to hear other people's experience. So knowing that we've got a lot of experience here with lawyers and having some experience with other license holders, that intersection has been a really fun place to be.
It's been great. I feel like I've learned a lot and met some really smart other attorneys, which is always enlightening and inspirational.
I first got involved back in 2015 or 2016 when I met the co-founders, Amanda and Shabnam. We met through a mutual client, and I kind of stumbled onto this amazing community that they had built, and started showing up to their conferences and their parties. And then in 2018, I ran for the board at the request of one of the founders, and then I threw my name in the hat to become the president, and that happened in 2018. I've been the president of the organization for the last 4 years.
I love the federal policy discussions that were had yesterday. We heard from 2 different congressmen from very different parties, and just hearing them both talk about what legalization means to them and how, despite their somewhat opposing political views on lots of other issues, they are willing to come meet halfway and try to find some kind of negotiable position where we can find ourselves in a better place than we are now, where we currently have 36 states that have legalized at least for medicinal use. We've got at least 19 or 20 states now that have legalized adult use, yet there's still federal prohibition that is sort of creating a cloud over everyone's head, and there's constant conflict between state and federal law as a result. And so not only are the programs at the state level suffering because of it, but we have patients suffering, particularly young students. We've been hearing even today, we had a great moot court session about the Sue Sisley lawsuit, and then there was also the annual presidential summary panel this morning, which I also really loved, because we got to really hear about some of the challenges that are happening on the state level. Even in states that have been really progressive on this issue, they're starting to roll back some of the rights of patients. So I've really enjoyed the last 2 days a lot.
Well, presently I co-chair the International Committee for the INCBA, the idea being that much like myself, who identified needs in terms of identifying people internationally who knew what they were talking about and who can practice law with regards to cannabis transactions, intellectual property, and so on. The committee's mandate is to serve as a similar beacon. People who practice in cannabis law internationally, who are looking to establish themselves and to contribute to the INCBA, can look to the committee to do that, give them a place, give them a voice, and also collect information in terms of what's going, because it's a very dynamic, fast-moving industry, quickly identify what's going on in their jurisdiction, crunch that down, and relay that back to the association. That's the game plan.
INCBA is tremendous because it's a place where lawyers get together and are really open and helpful with one another. And I love that the price point is not, like some of the other I won't name them, bigger bar associations that charge so much. And so I always find that it's just more friendly, and you learn so much from each other, and the collaborative atmosphere is terrific. So I very much enjoy it.
I love the collegiality of everyone. Attorneys, you often hear about how cutthroat they are, but even here, even if you're in the same industry, the same practice area, they'll refer you to other clients. They're super collegial. I'll see attorneys from the same insurance specialization, all super great friends, mingling, and same goes for all the other specializations. I love the friendliness and collegiality of everything.
From yesterday, in addition to all the federal policy, also learning from the international panel, and I think we focus so much time on, especially in California, the local, and then the state, and then obviously everyone's talking about the federal, but then there's this whole other layer of the international factor and the international treaties, and that to me seems like sort of the ultimate frontier. And the last kind of thing to conquer. So it's interesting because you feel like we've come so far, but then it really broadens your horizon to see how much further we have to go for legalization. Then also just the commercialization of it, right? Just balancing decriminalization, commercialization, social justice, all these kinds of things. So I think what I realized yesterday is this group is actually sort of the most powerful group in cannabis because we're all attorneys, we're all in our sort of respective corners making our change. You know, there's like a me in every state and a me in like every like country. So it's kind of, you know, exciting to not a me, but like, you know, to get with everyone who's so similarly situated but experiencing different things, but all very aware of the conflicts in the various laws. So I think that's what's been really interesting and exciting for me. Meeting people like, you know, from New York and New Jersey and all these other states. California for so long was kind of in this little bubble. I used to be like, oh, I don't need to learn about other states because it's all in California. We don't. But now it's just the emerging markets and the broadening of the horizon. It's so exciting. So it's been really just, you know, 3 days of just learning and growing and connecting and networking. And it's been such an honor and a pleasure, and you know, looking forward to speaking later today. So it's really just the perfect place for lawyers to get together in this space, learn from each other, network, connect. It's ideal.
There's a lot of other ways that, you know, my practice is supported, like knowing that there are going to be issue experts, you know, at my fingertips in virtually every conceivable nook and cranny of the industry and where the law intersects with it at every state, international, federal level.
So far it's delivered. It's been great. You know, the biggest asset I think is just being able to see so many other practitioners in this field. I'm from a pretty isolated state with a small program, and so our own state bar association has not even permitted lawyers in the state to formally practice in this area. So coming here to see that there is a vibrant practice of cannabis law across the world gives me a lot of hope and a lot of ideas about how to move it forward in my own state. And so hopefully it's sort of an exchange of ideas that I can bring some to the table and certainly take some back to my own state.
Our growth has been explosive. When I took over as president, we had just a few hundred members, and now we're up over 800. We're in many more countries than we used to be. I oversaw the transition from the National Cannabis Bar Association to the International Cannabis Bar Association. So we put a real big focus on INCBA Europe and developing relationships with our colleagues who practice cannabis law in other jurisdictions outside the U.S.
I'm proud of just a host of different things. The easiest one is probably the growth of the association in our community. What I see is one of the most important aspects of practice in cannabis law is having the institutional knowledge available to any one given attorney in a substantive practice area, both from other substantive practice areas but also from other jurisdictions. And so having a mutual support network that has grown to this many attorneys with this much expertise on a global level has just been incredible to watch. Within that, we've seen so many individual projects that really inspire me every day, from our amicus committee filings to our legislative advisement comments to all the federal policy work and the work that we do on the UN Single Convention on Narcotics. Really just from A to Z, we're involved in everything cannabis law related, but I have to say the community is still one of the things I'm proudest of.
How's your experience been at the Cannabis Law Institute 2022 so far?
It's been great, you know, since it's here in DC for me, and the fact that we had Congressman Joyce and Perlmutter here to speak to us was so exciting. And I'm just delighted because I spend a lot of time, you know, on the Hill and with the agencies, that those members get to see a really solid group of lawyers that are serious and know what they're talking about, which is not always who they have representing the industry before them. So I am really pleased with this time's meeting.
Excellent. And what are you looking forward to with the future of INCBA?
Well, just more of the same. It's so nice to be have COVID behind us, and you know, again, from my perspective here, I hope that INCBA really engages on the federal piece with the federal legalization bills. And it's very tough slog, but it will all depend on whether we can really deal with the nitty-gritty tough issues of how this product will be regulated. And that really needs some lawyers. And so I hope INCBA will develop some model regulation and really focus on some of these issues to help the regulators do the right thing here.
What's been your favorite part of the Cannabis Law Institute 2022 so far?
Ooh, that's a tough one, but I'd have to say probably going to the events. The socials are quite nice, and just getting to see everyone. It's a small community, so I love getting to see the oftentimes the people that the friends basically, especially after this pandemic.
Absolutely. What are you looking forward to with your work with INCBA?
I'm looking forward to the INCBA expanding, so that's more friends, and also getting the legislature and policies to get moving along, so that they're more common sense.
That's the thing about this bar association is that that's like the number one thing is these are my friends, these are my tribe, my crew, and seeing them again is really great.
Okay, so initially our objective is to, I suppose, spread academic programs in cannabis law throughout the United States and North America, and then ultimately into other jurisdictions that have either regulated cannabis for medical or non-medical adult use, and that will be largely in Europe to begin with and hopefully worldwide in time.
This has been amazing. I mean, sometimes when you're in cannabis, you don't necessarily always speak to the highest common denominator when it comes to educational levels. So sometimes it is nice to, kind of speak at a high level at every level. So I think in some ways it's nice to know that everyone here has gone through some level of education. So, speaking in vernacular is sometimes nice, jargonistic terms are sometimes there, but also knowing that we can talk at a certain speed and cadence where we don't have to retract and go, does everyone understand where I'm at? So that's been really kind of refreshing. To allow that kind of just, stream of thought to just come out and know that there's a lot of people who understand where you're coming from. I think that's been kind of the best place here. And plus learning about everyone's intersection into law and how they came into cannabis is just like the way I came into it. And so, you see a lot of lawyers who came into it for the love of trying to help people, and seeing that there was this huge gray area in law that we were going to have to start really looking into to narrow it down so that we could effectively make good business decisions and make good social decisions and see what we could do for people and patients as much as we could. So
INCBA is largely responsible for me having a practice. The vast majority of the business that I've gotten over the 5 years I've been practicing in this industry has been referred from other lawyers in this room. And it's also been responsible for helping me not commit malpractice on a week-to-week basis. So much about practicing in an area that's both highly regulated and still federally illegal is tricky, and you have to do things a little bit differently in order to be both making sure that you're not creating issues for your own practice, and to be responsible and doing a good job for your clients. And so the educational experience that we've gotten out of this week in CLI and years now of legal education in the cannabis industry has enriched my practice tremendously.
INCBA enriches my practice because of the network. Like I said, my law firm is the house that cannabis built. Almost all of my referrals come from other lawyers, and a lot of those other lawyers are other INCBA members. There's no competition here. There's so much work to be done. There's plenty to share, and I love meeting other practitioners who do different things than me, because it helps me have a nice repertoire to be able to refer my clients out when there's something that I don't handle. I've also noticed that even with people that do the same kind of work that I do, we refer to each other conflict work or work together on cases, and it's really a wonderful network, and makes me feel that I am not alone out there practicing this very challenging type of law.
INCBA Europe was an idea born around two years ago, when Kai and I realized that we have a pretty good network of cannabis lawyers in Europe. We tried to organize ourselves first on LinkedIn, and we created a group called European Cannabis Lawyers. It gained some traction, and then at some stage we realized we need a lot of back office. We need to find a system in which we can integrate this network, and there was no better fit than the INCBA here in the US.
It's been good. Hurried and harried, but incredibly rewarding so far. So we have just had an incredible set of sessions. Yesterday we opened with AG Racine, who's the District of Columbia Attorney General. Just some inspiring remarks from him, especially from a position of power in law enforcement, that was so supportive of our industry and the legal participation in the cannabis industry. The congressional representatives that we had yesterday were just excellent. It's always a pleasure to see Ed Perlmutter and David Joyce speak to each other, despite being on opposite sides of the aisle. They're such good friends and such good colleagues in the work that they do together. It really shows how close they are as individuals. So seeing those two people work in a bipartisan way is always inspiring. Amber Littlejohn is just a master of everything policy related, both at the local and federal level. And so those set of sessions on the first day were really, really inspiring. This morning, we got to go through our first ever moot court competition. Well, it wasn't a competition. It was more of a recitation of a set of facts that had been argued a couple years ago. Seeing a hot bench of some of the top legal minds that I've ever known, both from within and outside of the cannabis industry, grill two of our sort of most intuitive, longest standing, impactful members on some of their arguments around the legalization of cannabis was just fascinating. And it really gave us a different flavor and a different speed for the conference. And so it's a novel way to learn, and it was really interesting to watch the audience sort of learn in this new way that isn't someone talking at them, but really trying to figure out issues with them.
It's been really good. I just got done presenting at a moot court, and you know, it all went really well, and everybody was very supportive. But I had to represent the United States position in a case that I litigated, which obviously we were challenging the United States' position in the case. So it was hard for me to take on the other side's views, but I did what I had to do.
It's really hard to choose a favorite panel for CLI 2022. It was certainly wonderful to have Congressman Joyce and Perlmutter share from the right and the left where the cannabis conversation is in Congress and what it's likely to look like as things potentially shift in the future. Today's discussion between, rehashing of the Sisley versus the DEA case was tremendous with Shane Pennington and Matt Zorn. Hard to choose.
So far, the highlight for me was the precedential cases review this morning. I thought that was a really comprehensive overview of some of the latest case law that's coming out. And I just love the idea that, not only are we working to push legislatively and with lobbying efforts, but also using the courts to try and push policy forward. And then following that panel was the moot court discussion where they mooted the Sue Sisley versus DEA case, which sort of to me kind of dovetailed together with the litigation that's out there that we just reviewed, and then this impact litigation that's really trying to move the needle forward. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most excited about with INCBA is supporting some of those impact litigation practices.
Well, first of all, you meet people from all over the country and now all over the world. So you have all of these resources to call on. I have clients who are taking their licensing deals into other states. I need local counsel. I know exactly who to call, and if I don't, I know who knows who I should call. I get referrals from people coming into Washington. And I also learn at the CLEs about issues I wouldn't otherwise be able to keep track of because things happen so quickly now. Back in the day, you could kind of keep up with what's happening, and everything is just going so nutso in all different directions that this is where I hear about what is actually going on outside of my sphere.
What part of the conference has been your favorite so far?
I can think of a few, but I think really the most amazing thing is to have met some incredible lawyers who really are experts in their field, who have been able to share the wealth of knowledge and expertise that they have acquired, and have been incredibly generous in their spirit of professionalism and collegiality.
I think just to raise my own involvement in it and really learn from what is obviously a huge base of knowledge here and take it back to my own practice, and as the South, as a general body, just expands the cannabis field, I can hopefully get more involved there and just further the cause.
So I've really loved being CLE co-chair. I worked a lot with Mary Shapiro during my last year as CLE co-chair, and we created, the pandemic caused a huge burden on everyone, and INCBA was, no different. We suffered a lot from having to transition from a lot of our in-person events to now all of a sudden going completely remote for the better part of a year. And so making sure that attorneys are getting the legal education that they need in order to survive and thrive in this industry, is certainly challenging. But, myself, Sean Hauser, Mary Shapiro, we worked together all last year to really create this sort of INCBA barchives where we have all these CLE webinars for people to be able to just virtually participate and get all of their credits. And so that was challenging, but also, really exciting. I learned a lot because I had to help support the actual creation of the academic programs for those webinars. And so I learned a lot myself about areas of the practice that I didn't necessarily know before. So I would say that it's been a really great, experience.
My favorite part, first of all, really the content. I learned a lot about the mistakes and challenges, and I learned a lot about the intricacies of this industry and the law here in the US and Canada. And I think a lot of this information is something that we can bring back to Switzerland and learn from it.
I'm excited for the association to continue to grow and to continue to be a real leader in cannabis legal education and the cannabis conversation around the world. I'm so excited that more and more countries, every time we hold CLI, there are lawyers from further and further around the world, and certainly around the country as more and more states legalize in the U.S.
There's just so much that's going on right now for the industry. As federal legalization ramps up, at the same time things are happening in Germany and the European Union on the international front. And, I'm thrilled to be a part of an organization that sort of gathers all the thought leaders and the people who are actually on the ground as these legal changes get implemented. And I'm excited to, be part of the leadership team that's going to be sort of shepherding the industry through a historic period.
More growth, more minds, more brilliance, more progress. I think the bigger NCBA gets, the more we can affect the future and move the dial on legalization.
I'm excited to see the INCBA grow and get into every country that has any form or might have any form of decriminalized cannabis. We should be everywhere. Everyone should know about us. This is a wonderful group of lawyers. It's enhanced my practice beyond belief, and I love the parties.
Parties are great.
Again, we just have so many projects in the hopper that it's hard to choose one. I have to say that the thing I'm probably the most excited about is still our international expansion. This year in September 10th and 11th, we will be in Switzerland, and so I'm looking forward to that trip. It will be our first set of non-US education that we've ever hosted, and so we're starting in Switzerland. That is co-chaired by the chairs of our from our international committee, the co-chairs of INCBA Europe, which is Daniel Heyman and Kai Friedrich Nierman. Two incredible minds. They're really pushing this project forward, and so I can't wait to see the impact that we have in Europe and beyond, using the INCBA Europe as a template. And then beyond that, I'm really excited about some of the policy discussions at the international level having to do with the UN, the International Narcotics Control Board, and the UN Single Convention on Narcotics.
Thank you so much.
And wait, who's your favorite board member?
My favorite board member, by far, is...